Be Me Evan 29, backend guy who babysits APIs and prays dashboards stay green. Company is mid-size SaaS, not sexy, but it pays and the coffee is free. Office is open plan, glass rooms and the constant hum of keyboards and quiet panic. Engineering is mostly men, but product, design, QA, and data are mixed like normal. We argue a lot at work, not personal, just blunt because deadlines don't negotiate. Someone says bad idea, someone says prove it, and we settle it with logs. It's noisy, but it ships, and shipping keeps the lights on. Then HR hires Elise, early 30s, sharp blazer, calm smile, eyes that take inventory. She's not incompetent, not crazy, not the meme people imagine when they hear HR. She's actually good at her job, which is why this gets messy. First week, she sends a short survey about meetings, tone, and feeling heard. Second week, she does quiet 1.1s with team leads and writes everything down. Third week, she runs an all-hands on psychological safety with clean slides. She says conflict is fine, but contempt is not, and we all nod like adults. She says some people dominate without noticing, and a few senior guys go still. I think fair, we have a couple talkers who treat meetings like sparring. First month is harmless, little reminders in Slack after tense discussions. Consider rephrasing critiques as questions, she writes, polite and professional. Impact matters more than intent, she adds, and nobody wants to argue that. We laugh about it in DMs, but we also try, because nobody wants trouble. Elise isn't loud, which makes her scarier, because she doesn't need volume. She just needs the process, and the process is built to move on its own. First small incident happens in a sprint review on a Tuesday morning. Tom, senior engineer, says a proposed feature is a bad trade and a time bomb. He's blunt, but he's also right because the estimate is fantasy and everyone knows. Maya from product pushes back, saying it's what the client asked for, so do it. Tom says clients ask for plenty of dumb things, and the room gets sharp. Elise isn't in the meeting, but later that day, Tom gets a calendar invite. Subject line says quick chat, which is HR language for watch your step. Tom comes back quiet and jokes less, like someone turned down his volume slider. He doesn't say what happened, but we all read his face like a status page. Second incident is smaller, but it lands harder because it's public. In a stand-up, Nick interrupts Jenna from QA to clarify a test case. It's normal, fast, and honestly helpful because the details were fuzzy. Elise is sitting in and she raises a hand like we're in school. She says gently, "Let's not speak over each other, please. Let Jenna finish." Nick apologizes, Jenna finishes, and everyone pretends it's fine. Later, Elise posts in the team channel about inclusive airtime and meeting hygiene. It's not nasty, but it's pinned, and pinned messages feel like warnings. Third incident is where the vibe shifts from annoying to dangerous. Friday afternoon, we're tired, and someone drops a dumb joke in a chat thread. It's not even a gender joke, just a sarcastic comment about vibes-based roadmaps. One of the product folks replies with, "Wow," and the thread dies instantly. Monday morning, the guy who wrote it, Sam from Data, is gone from our stand-up. Someone says he's in training and won't be leading the metrics review anymore. Sam messages me later, says he got a written note for dismissive communication. He tells me the worst part wasn't the note, it was the screenshot. He says seeing your words in a PDF hits different, like evidence in court. That's when the men start adapting, and it's not dramatic, it's quiet. We stop saying bad idea and start saying, I have concerns, like robots. We stop joking in channels that have more than 5 people in them. We stop debating in meetings because debating is where tone gets interpreted. We start moving arguments into DMs, then into small calls, then into nothing. In meetings, people say, sounds good and makes sense, even when it doesn't. Elise reads the calmer tone as success, and she's not entirely wrong. The room is calmer, but it's calmer like a house where nobody slams doors anymore. You can feel the tension because silence is not peace, it's restraint. The women in product and design actually seem relieved at first. Maya says meetings feel less like combat, and I don't argue with that. Jenna says she hates getting cut off, and she's right to hate it. Elise runs a workshop about feedback without harm, and attendance is mandatory. We sit in a conference room eating stale cookies and nod at a slide deck. Elise says, assume positive intent, then says, impact still matters, then smiles. Nobody wants to be the guy who argues with HR about how arguing works. Month 2, something subtle starts breaking, and it's the speed of decisions. We have a risky migration coming up, moving traffic to a new gateway service. Normally we'd argue hard in design review, then pick the least bad option. This time people speak like they're writing emails to lawyers. Tom asks a question, soft and careful, and Maya answers with a paragraph. Nick starts to push back, then glances at Elise, then changes his wording. Elise is in the review to observe, which means she's there to be remembered. The design ends up with too many compromises because nobody wants to be blunt. We ship anyway because deadlines don't wait for perfect communication. The migration goes okay at first, which makes everyone relax the wrong way. Then a client in a different region starts getting random auth failures. Not constant, just enough to make support tickets pile like dirty dishes. We trace logs, we see weird retrees, we suspect the gateway, and we need speed. Tom says carefully, this architecture might be flawed under load in Region B. Maya says the client is sensitive and we should avoid alarmist language in notes. Elise agrees, says we should frame it as monitoring, not failure. It's the first time I feel something cold in my stomach during a meeting. Because it's not about wording, it's about whether we treat fire as smoke. 2 days later, the client escalates and leadership starts hovering. COO asks why the issue wasn't flagged as high risk earlier. We all look at each other because we tried, but tried politely. Elise schedules a post-incident reflection, and the invite has rules attached. No blame. Use I statements. Focus on feelings and learnings, it says. I read it twice because it feels like we're preparing for therapy, not failure. The meeting happens and everyone speaks softly like we're in a hospital room. Tom says he felt concerned. Maya says she felt stressed. Elise thanks everyone. The actual technical root cause takes 15 minutes to mention, then gets buried. We leave with action items about communication norms and a small fix request. Week 3 of this mess, the client's traffic spikes and everything detonates. Auth failures jump, retries explode, and the gateway starts choking. Support is drowning, sales is screaming, and the CEO is suddenly in our Slack. We spin up a war room call and the first 10 minutes are chaos. Elise joins the call, which is weird because HR never joins incident calls. She says she's there to support healthy collaboration, and my jaw tightens. Tom starts listing likely causes fast because speed matters in an outage. Elise interrupts, says, let's not use harsh language, this isn't anyone's fault. Tom pauses, then rephrases, then loses his momentum like someone cut his mic. Nick tries to push a rollback and Maya asks if that will damage trust. The call drifts into feelings and optics while the system burns in real time. I'm watching graphs spike while people choose words like they're defusing a bomb. The bomb is literally exploding, and we're arguing about tone around the crater. We'd limp through the outage, patching symptoms, not solving the cause. We restore partial service, the CEO calms down, and then Elise books another meeting. This one is titled Accountability and Culture, which makes my skin crawl. In that meeting, Elise says we need to explore why risks weren't communicated safely. She says some people may feel intimidated sharing concerns if discussions get intense. Then she says gently that silence can be a form of disengagement. It lands like a slap because we didn't disengage. We got trained into caution. Tom's face goes flat. Nick stops taking notes, and I feel a switch flip. Because now it's not just that we're muzzled, it's that we're blamed for it. After that meeting, the men don't revolt. They don't shout. They don't threaten. They just start doing something else, something practical, something that can't be logged. Nick creates a small private channel with just a few of us in infra. Tom joins, Sam joins, I join, and one of the women engineers, Priya, joins too. Priya is smart and blunt, and she's also tired of meetings that go nowhere. Nobody says no women because that would be stupid and unfair and also suicidal. But we also don't invite the people who turn every crisis into a seminar. The rule is simple, unspoken, and brutal, which is why it works. Only people who can handle direct speech without escalating it into a complaint. First night we use that channel, we solve more in 40 minutes than in a week. Tom drops a blunt theory about the gateway's token cache and a region mismatch. Priya runs a quick test, confirms it, and we all feel that rare relief. Nick says we should hotfix the cache behavior and add a guardrail in config. I write a patch, Sam pulls metrics, and we coordinate like we used to. No padding, no politeness theater, no pauses to check if words sound gentle. We push the fix behind a flag, test in staging, then roll to region B. The auth failures drop like a stone, and for the first time in weeks, it's quiet. Quiet in a good way, like the sound after you stop a leak. Next day, leadership notices the numbers without understanding the social mechanics. COO posts a thank you in the main channel, tags Tom, Nick, and me. Elise replies with a heart emoji and loves seeing teamwork, which feels wrong, because the teamwork happened by escaping the environment she was shaping. That's the part nobody says out loud, because saying it out loud is the trap. 2 weeks later, a bigger crisis hits, and this is the real climax. A different client demands a last-minute integration change for a renewal contract. Sales promises it, product agrees, and the timeline is impossible. Normally we'd argue and say no because saying no is how you survive. This time, meetings are polite, and the polite version of no never lands. Maya says we should lean in. Elise says we should assume capability, and it's set. Deadline is Friday, and by Wednesday night we're staring at a wall of tasks. Support is already getting questions, and leadership is twitchy again. Elise schedules alignment sessions and insists decisions be transparent and shared, which in practice means more meetings, more observers, and less actual building. Thursday morning, we hit the point where either we save it or we burn. The main project channel becomes a swamp of threads and careful phrasing. Someone asks a direct question, and it gets answered with 3 paragraphs of hedging. Priya pings me privately, says, if we do this in the main channel, we die. I agree because I can already see Friday's disaster forming like a storm front. Nick spins up a call with our small group, and it's fast and ugly and effective. Tom assigns chunks, Sam watches metrics, Priya handles edge cases, I build the API glue. We talk bluntly, we interrupt each other, we say that's wrong and mean it. Nobody takes it personally because we're not performing, we're trying to survive. At 2 a.m., the integration works in staging, and we all sit back, exhausted. Priya laughs, quiet, and says, "This is the first normal work I've had in months." We roll out early Friday, and by noon the client confirms the flow is stable. Sales celebrates, leadership breathes, and the CEO posts a big thank you message. The message lists the names of our group because that's what the log shows. It doesn't list the alignment sessions because alignment sessions don't ship code. Friday afternoon, Elise tries to reclaim the narrative because that's her job. She schedules a debrief to capture lessons learned about inclusive collaboration. She starts with how important it was that everyone felt respected during crunch time. Then she asks why some decisions happened outside established communication channels. Tom answers carefully, but even careful honesty sounds like a knife in that room. He says, "We needed speed, and we needed to speak plainly without fear." The room goes still because fear is not a word people like hearing at work. Elise's smile tightens and she asks what he means by fear in a gentle voice. Tom pauses, then says, "Fear of being misunderstood, documented, and escalated." Priya nods once, and I feel my pulse in my throat because this is dangerous. Elise says she understands, but her tone changes slightly like a door clicking shut. She says transparency is essential, and private channels can exclude people unintentionally. She says exclusion harms culture, and culture is everyone's responsibility. Then she says we should recommit to shared spaces so nobody feels left out. Maya adds that she did feel left out, and she wishes she'd been included earlier. Priya looks at her, tired, and says, "Included in what exactly, the panic?" Elise jumps in before that can become a fight, and she redirects to feelings again. The meeting ends with action items, mostly about communication, not about deadlines. Tom messages us afterward and says, "We don't do those debriefs anymore." That statement sounds like rebellion, but it's not. It's just triage. We keep doing the work in the small group because the results speak louder. And the results keep stacking, week after week, until leadership stops needing persuasion. Nobody says men work better without women, because that would be crude and false. What happens is more boring and more terrifying because it's structural. Work splits into two tracks without anyone formally deciding it should. Track 1 becomes the danger work, the jobs that decide whether we win or lose. Incidents, crunch fixes, last-minute client saves, hard calls, and unpopular truths. The people on that track are mostly the same few engineers who can be direct. Priya stays on that track too because she can handle blunt speech and hates theater. Track 2 becomes the safe work, the jobs that look important and fill calendars. Sync meetings, retros, documentation, alignment decks, stakeholder updates, and tone coaching. The women aren't fired, they aren't idle, and nobody openly pushes them out. They're just pulled toward track 2 by gravity because track 1 is socially risky. If you speak bluntly in track 1, you might be called aggressive or unsafe. If you speak softly in track 1, you might lose the crisis and get blamed anyway. The cruel part is how clean it looks from the outside. The women are busy, their calendars are full, their Slack messages are constant. The men are also busy, but their work produces the numbers leadership chases. When something breaks, leadership pings the same names because those names fix things. When something needs explaining, leadership pings the other track because that track writes narratives. Nobody says it out loud, because if you say it out loud, it becomes a lawsuit. So everyone pretends it's just roles and strengths and natural specialization. Elise notices, of course she notices, because HR people notice patterns like sharks smell blood. She starts asking why certain people keep getting pulled into urgent work. She asks why women aren't represented in the crisis calls as much anymore. Nick says women are welcome, and that's true because nobody bans anyone. The reality is women stop joining those calls because the calls are intense and messy. And also because if a call is intense and messy, Elise will later ask who set that tone. It becomes self-fulfilling because risk teaches avoidance faster than any training teaches courage. There's a moment that makes it all painfully clear, and it happens on a Wednesday. New outage, smaller but still scary, and support is getting hammered. Maya joins the call and tries to facilitate, which means she tries to slow us down. Tom says the feature flag needs to be flipped now because users are locked out. Maya asks if we can discuss impact first, and Tom says the impact is we're dying. Elise joins the call again, says we should keep communication respectful under pressure. Tom goes silent for a beat, then says, flat, Nick, do it. And Nick does it. Outage resolves in minutes, and the awkwardness stays in the call like smoke. Afterwards, Maya messages Elise about how Tom's tone felt harsh and stressful, and I know that because Elise posts a reminder about pressure not excusing behavior. Next day, leadership asks Tom to lead an urgent client recovery plan. They ask him because he's effective and because effectiveness is a drug to executives. Elise tries to schedule a coaching session with him, but his calendar is suddenly blocked. He tells me he started putting focus time everywhere because he's done being processed. Elise tries to escalate to the COO about visibility and inclusion in urgent efforts. The COO listens politely, then asks one question that kills the conversation. He asks, "Are we losing money because of this, or are we shipping faster?" Elise doesn't have a number that beats "we shipped faster," so she loses air. The sharpest part is that Elise doesn't get fired, and that's why it's realistic. She stays, she keeps running workshops, she keeps polishing culture docs. She still has authority on paper, and people still smile at her in hallways. But the core work starts routing around her like water around a rock. And once a system learns to root around something, it doesn't unlearn easily. One night, after another long day, I'm packing up, and I hear Elise in a room. She's talking to the CEO and the COO, voices low, door not fully closed. She says she's concerned about exclusion patterns in the message it sends. She says culture is drifting, and she wants to correct it before it hardens. The CEO says he understands, but his voice is tired, like he's choosing battles. He says, we can address process next quarter, but right now we need stability. Elise says stability without inclusion is fragile, and the CEO exhales slowly. He says, we're stable because the right people handled it, and I can't argue with that. I freeze in the hallway because that's the whole story in one sentence. After that, nothing dramatic happens, and that's the final twist people don't expect. No screaming match, no walkouts, no viral clip, no grand speech about politics. Just quiet incentives shaping behavior until the shape is permanent. The men keep doing the danger work because it's where the trust and promotions go. The women keep doing the safe work because it's where the meetings and approvals live. A few women like Priya cross over and stay because they can handle the intensity. Most don't. Not because they're worse, but because the environment punishes missteps differently. And the men notice that difference and they start protecting themselves like it's instinct. Months later, a new hire asks why certain engineers always get the fun problems. Nick smiles and says, "They don't get them. They take them when it matters." The new hire laughs, but it's a nervous laugh because he can feel the rule. The rule is that the fastest way to be safe is to be quiet. And the fastest way to ship is to work where you're allowed to be direct. Those two truths can't live in the same room for long without someone cracking. One Friday, Elise posts a long message about recommitting to inclusive collaboration. She asks everyone to pledge to keep decisions in public channels. She asks people to avoid side conversations that could alienate teammates. The message gets a few heart reactions, a few thumbs up, and a lot of silence. Then, 10 minutes later, the gateway alarm goes off again, because of course it does. And without a word, the same small group lights up, calls start, patches fly. We fix it in 20 minutes, and the main channel learns about it after the fact. That's when I realized the sharpest thing about this whole mess. Elise didn't lose because she was stupid, and the men didn't win because women are bad. She lost because she made conflict too expensive, and the system found a cheaper path. The men didn't decide women shouldn't be here, they decided risk shouldn't be here. And in our office, risk got a face, a process, and a calendar invite. So the danger work moved to the rooms where nobody was taking screenshots. Last scene, end of quarter, we're in a performance review cycle. My manager shows me a list of high-impact contributions from the quarter. It's mostly incidents and saves, the ugly work that keeps customers paying. He says leadership noticed, and he hints at a bigger raise if I keep it up. Then he says something casual, like he's commenting on the weather. He says, "You thrive in the smaller rooms, so stay close to that group." I ask what he means, and he shrugs like it's obvious and unimportant. He says, "You know, the rooms where we actually solve things." I walk back to my desk and I look around the office. Elise is in a glass room running a workshop with earnest faces and polite nods. Priya is at her desk with 3 monitors and a quiet intensity, waiting for the next fire. Maya is in another room aligning stakeholders, building slides, smoothing edges, doing real work too. Everyone is busy, nobody is idle, and yet the power sits in one narrow lane. The lane where you can speak plainly, decide fast, and not worry about phrasing. And most days that lane is mostly men, because men learned the rules first. We didn't kick anyone out and we didn't announce a new order. We just discovered that when the pressure hits, we work best where we feel safe. And safe stopped meaning comfortable and started meaning not punishable. Once we tasted that kind of safety, the kind where you can be blunt and survive, we didn't go back. Elise still thinks she fixed the culture because the office sounds quieter. But the real culture moved underground, and it's measured in uptime, not in smiles. And the harsh truth is simple, the kind nobody posts in the main channel. The moment we worked without fear, we worked faster, and nobody wanted to unlearn that.